Bases dropped on another edition of Soccer Down here. It's a Monday. It's an overreaction Monday. It was not a good Sunday for Atlanta sports in general, especially for the teams playing teams from Chicago. That did not go very well for the American football team or the world football team yesterday. We'll get into all of that, and I'm sure there's lots of reactions on the Twitters to get into. You want to add to the collection, tweet at us at Soccer Down here. Let us know what you thought about Atlanta United's 2-0 loss at Soldier Field last night to the Chicago Fire. Let us know about anything else in the weekend of MLS, USL, USL League One. Honestly, anything. We'll take it this morning. We will have soccer over there this evening, and we'll get deeper into the Premier League and La Liga and Serie A and Copa Libertadores side of things there. But if it comes up, it comes up. That's what the morning show is. So you can tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. You can email us, soccerdownhere@gmail. You can also join us on the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. Lots of conversations happen in the Twitch pitch. I try to keep up with them as best as I can while I'm talking to you guys, while we're talking to tweets, while we're talking to John, while we're talking to all this, and then sometimes I don't catch them all, but then you guys can highlight them, and you make sure that I see them, and we go back and forth. It's good times. It's what happens after matches, and this one will be an interesting one. I'm curious to see what people have to say about it. I honestly shut most things off last night when I got home. It was a long night just at the stadium. The games remotely are tough. This one worked out pretty good based off where we were and everything. But, it's a challenge. It's always harder than being there. And then, you give up another early goal, and it's draining. It's very draining, and that's what it felt like last night. So got home, grabbed a snack, watched San Jose come back against LAFC, which was madness, and get a late winner. And, man, you talk about a happy team after that one. That's what that team looked like. That was a wild way to end the night for Major League Soccer, but it's crazy right now. The results are difficult to predict. Toronto handled Columbus 3-1 in Hartford. Miami did not look good, and Gonzalo Higuain got all the trash talked to him after missing a penalty, and he wanted to fight everybody around him, which I can't say I really blame him. All kinds of stuff. So let us know what you thought about all of that. We'll get into it this morning. John, where you want to start?
Let's just go with the Twitters. The Colonel's in this morning. He says this is after the match. We'll get in when we get to the point to where we're up to date for this morning. I'll let you know. But after the match, Colonel says at least this time they didn't give up an early goal, held them out for over 5 minutes.
At least they gave up a goal in a different way. How about that one? It was in the run of play, but it's a bad giveaway. And Fernando Meza plays Eric Remedi at midfield, and Gaston Jimenez's eyes lit up when he saw that he was going to be able to get there without Remedi, I guess knowing he was there. I don't know how it happens that way. Just to add to the torture was, and this is going behind the fourth wall a little bit here, after a broadcast when you just have the raw feed coming in, and that's what we had last night to call the game from, they are preparing the highlight reels after the game. They call it a melt, correctly? Mm-hmm. Why do they call it a melt, by the way?
Because you're taking all of the action and just melting it into one timeline.
Okay. Well, they took that goal and had every angle imaginable and slowed it down and sped it up and showed it from different things. And they showed it pretty much on a loop during a commercial break. And I was so ready to throw things watching it over and over again because it's just a bad giveaway. Mm-hmm. You have to know what's around you before you receive the ball. And it's just felt like this is something that at times has been forgotten. It's a goal you can't give up because when you lose it there, and this is the challenge, you lose it in that spot. Your outside backs are going because you are getting to midfield. You lose it, it's a 3v2. It's a 3v2. It's that simple, and you're done. I mean, Meza does the best he can to hold it up to try to defend Ebers and also defend the ball, and you can't do both. And Fabian Herbers just gets loose, puts in a great shot, beats Gazan, and it starts. You responded. Again, I mean, this team has consistently tried to respond. This time you weren't able to find the back of the net. Bobby Shuttleworth with a pretty amazing save on a pretty amazing chance from Adam John. First touch, he controls it, and I saw people, I guess, trying to take shots at Adam John. I don't know why. Like, did he mean to do it? Who cares if he meant to do it? He got a good chance off because he reacted to his first touch faster than anybody else and turns and hits it out of the air. It's an amazing attempt from John, and 8-9 times out of 10, that's fine in the back of the net. Shuttleworth makes a great save, and then you give up another goal going the other way, and it's just at that point you're running uphill. And that's the thing about this team right now. The margin's really thin. You're not going to create a ton of chances. You had 5 shots on target last night. That's a good night. That's a good night for most teams in the league. You only created 8 chances. At least you were efficient with what you created, but you need to create more. But you're not going to create a whole lot more right now. Not without Jurgen Damm, not without Ezequiel Parco, not without Joseph Martinez. You're not going to create enough to make the mistakes that you're making in conceding goals. And it's just that simple. You're not going to be a high-scoring team to paper over those cracks right now. We've talked about this with LAFC, where they've got an attack that can paper over cracks. Yeah, they do. They can make 3 mistakes in a match and sometimes score 4 goals. Not always, as we saw last night. And there's only so many goals you can find to make up for Dejan Jakovic, which I still cannot believe that LAFC has not went to go get another center back after trading Walker Zimmerman before the season. It still blows my mind. They have not replaced him at all. There's no hashtag replacement. There's no replacement. Mm-hmm. And it's showing, and it showed last night. But if you have an attack that can paper over mistakes, great. Atlanta United does not have that right now. And it showed last night because you can fight. Franco Escobar, I thought, had a good match at center back, a very good match. Emerson Hyndman was good last night, but you needed a little bit more from him. Adam John was good last night. Gallagher was quiet, you needed more. There's not a whole lot more in terms of creativity right now. So when you're falling behind, you're stuck in a lot of ways. Can't concede that way. You just can't concede a goal in the 7th minute in that manner. I mean, it's not a throw-in this time. It's not a corner kick. It's not your own corner. It's not your own throw. It's still a bad goal to concede. And that's one that you're going to look at over and over and over and over and over again and ask how it happened.
Rich Ransom admits that he's going to need some popcorn for this morning on an Overreaction Monday.
Rich is feeling pretty good, though, after Philadelphia's big win. And I will continue to say it because this is how I've felt since the MLS's back tournament. The Philadelphia Union are the best team in Major League Soccer. And I don't know if Philadelphia fans feel that way. And, Rich, you'd have to tell me what the fan base is saying up in Philly. They are the most complete, well-rounded team in MLS. I think they're a better team than Columbus. I think they're the best team in the league. Seattle and Portland out west are the two who I think can challenge them. Columbus can obviously challenge them. But I think Philly's the best team in the league. So Rich is going to be feeling really good after their win last night and Atlanta's loss.
And, of course, Gonzalo Higuain is ready to fight everybody, but Glesnes was the one who jumps up and jumps into his sight line and goes behind him, and he's the only one that Higuain doesn't see.
Yeah.
As he wants to fight everybody, and Glesnes is the one who's kind of behind him, and he's doing,
He knew somebody did it, and he didn't catch who it was. And there were plenty of people who were barking at him, and he did not care for it very much. So, I mean, people miss penalties. Let's not get it twisted here. People miss penalties. Go look at Ruud van Nistelrooy against Arsenal. That's what this reminded me of, with the other team just jumping all over him. I don't know why. I mean, there's not a huge rivalry here yet between Philly and Miami. Higuain comes in with a ton of hype. It's a missed penalty. I heard on one of the broadcasts talking about XG, how penalties are converted 77% of the time now. That's even a little bit lower than I was thinking. I was thinking we were at 80% with it.
Yeah.
77%. Okay, that means there's some misses. And Higuain had a bad miss. And he's going to expect to do better there, absolutely. But the reaction to him was like, wow, these teams hate each other. And I don't think they'd even played before that one, had they?
Well, or was it one of those welcome to MLS cowboy kind
It
of
doesn't
moves?
matter. Like, if it's that, well, Jacob Glesnes better go check his CV a little bit before you start pulling that one, unless there were things going on in the game and Higuain was running his mouth during the game. I don't know. But that's a rivalry kind of reaction. That's not just a, yeah, we don't like you because you make a lot of money. That's a dumb reaction if that's what it was. That felt like a rivalry reaction.
A rivalry react.
Yes, that's what it felt like. And that was interesting. I did not expect to see that.
Rich Ransom's rivalry react is, we believe we're great, but there's a worry it'll all fall apart at some point.
Don't be a Falcons fan. Don't do that, because that's not a fun way to live. Your team is very, very good. Your team is very well-rounded. Looks like you navigated the Brendan Aronson move effectively, where you're going to have him the rest of the year. You got Anthony Fontana anyway. This is a really good team. You can't be living that life of expecting things to fall apart, because it's no fun. I mean, yeah, things do fall apart sometimes. It happens. But to just constantly not enjoy what's in front of you because you expect it to be bad at some point, that's an awful way to live. Don't do that to yourself, Rich. Don't be that guy.
Cuppers needs some sunshine pumped this morning.
What do we want to pump sunshine about? Good things coming out of last night? Let's see.
Well, you mentioned Adam John and Franco Escobar playing center back again. I think that's 1 and 2. I think those are 2 out of the blocks.
Yeah, Franco Escobar was our man of the match. I feel like he led by example, and no. Okay, this is the sunshine pumping segment. We'll get to the other part in a minute. Escobar, good. Let's see. Bello had another really good tackle.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Bello also got stomped on, which wasn't a card, but it was a game where Stott wasn't throwing cards. Referee was good. No problems with the referee. Very consistent, very level-headed. It was an easier game to call. I mean, every game's a little different, so it's not like Kevin Stott won the refereeing World Cup with his performance. It was very good, and we're not really talking about him. That's a good place to be if you're a referee.
Yep.
Brad Gazan made a couple of big saves early in the second half to keep it alive. Tyler Wolff got some good minutes. That was good to see. I liked his energy. I liked the work that he put in on both sides of the ball. He is a young player who has really good awareness, and that's usually one of the harder things for a young player to get. He has it. He reads the game well, and that's a good place to build from. Those are the things that stand out to me. I mean, those are the positives out of last night for me. Adam John's 2 chances were very good. You got good service from the right side, I think, pretty consistently. When Gallagher moved over to the right, the attack kind of changed a little bit because Mulroney and Gallagher were on their opposite foot to start. They were inverted. You wanted them to tuck in a little more. You wanted Lennon and Bello to get forward more. Chicago is making it difficult for Bello and Lennon to get forward a lot, so it didn't make as much sense to have the inverted wingers to get the width from the outside backs. You had to switch that up, and you did, and it started to click a little bit more once you did that. Understand why. That's because you weren't able to get your outside backs as involved. When Lennon could, he was good at right back, and I think you found something here that will make you consider where you go down the road with Franco Escobar playing as a center back with Lennon at right back. It's something that has been good enough to where you have to think about it in the long term as to what your long-term plan is, what this back line looks like next year, what your plans are going forward. Escobar's been that good at center back. So that's where you stand right now. It's a challenge. It's a challenge with the number of bodies you have out. It's a challenge with even the bodies who are out there that are not 100%. And you just can't afford to make mistakes. You did. This was the expected result if you give up a goal in the 7th minute.
Chris Hutchison says, I don't think having Joseph in the lineup would help the team right now, as I don't think there's anyone to give him any service.
Disagree, because it would open up space. Because that's the biggest difference. when Joseph is on the field, defenses have to worry about him, not even about service. They have to know where he is, because if there's even a half chance, he's going to get on the end of it, and he's a threat to score. So your defense plays the game differently. That creates space for others. So it would have an effect, even if he's not getting a lot of service. He's also a player, as we've seen in the last year, that can drop deeper and get on the ball if he's not getting a lot of service and create his own or create for others. Think back to goals we saw against Monterrey last year, against Motagua this year, where he and Pitti had some combination play from the middle of the field. He could find a way to contribute, and he's going to be a threat. You have to respect him. Go back to the MLS's back tournament, even without him, what managers were saying, how much they respected Pitti Martinez, how much they respected Ezequiel Barco, and they had to deal with them. So right now, there's not that same respect level for John Gallagher, for Jake Mulroney, for Adam John. So teams don't have to worry as much and sit back as much. They can be even more aggressive. And Chicago was really good yesterday in making it difficult for Atlanta to do its normal things, building up play out of the back. Chicago's pressure was good, forcing turnovers. Atlanta had to play more direct, more over the top than they like to. That creates 50-50 situations. It's a lottery ticket. You got to get lucky and win some of those. You did for a while, you didn't for a while. When the teams don't respect what you can do going forward, that's what can happen. They can be more aggressive and make it more disruptive. That's why you got to have those big names on the field. It opens up more space for the team as a whole.
Jake Michaels, do you foresee significant roster overhaul again this offseason? One new DP, assuming a Barco sale, and Joseph doesn't fix this team. I don't see a manager wanting to take on this squad as is. I fear becoming the Quakes if we hire a good coach but lack the talent.
No. Guys. Jake. Compare the roster of the San Jose Earthquakes and compare the roster of Atlanta United. First off, they're not even playing in the same sandbox. One's playing on a beach and the other is dumping sand in the back alley somewhere and saying it's a sandbox. Come on, that's not accurate. Two, you have turnover in teams quite frequently in soccer. That's just a fact. Teams that don't have much turnover are the anomaly here. MLS, you have more turnover than most because of the salary cap, because that forces turnover. Managers are not going to say, I don't want to go there because there's turnover. Managers are going to go there because, wait a minute, we've got somebody who wants to spend money and we can go sign top players. Yeah, that's where I want to go. So let's be real about that situation. How much turnover will we see this time? It's hard to say without knowing contract situations because we don't. Let's start from the lineup last night. We know Brad Gazan extended his contract in February, so he's under contract for next year, no questions. Escobar, when he signed, it was reported as a 3-year deal. Don't know if that included an option at the end of it. You would assume that it did, so there's a decision to make there. Meza, new. I would expect he signed more than a 1-year deal. You would, I think, safely assume he's under contract for next year. Lennon signed a new deal. He's under contract for next year. Bello, I can't remember if Bello's extended or not, but he will. He'll be here next year, no questions. Miles Robinson extended his deal, so he's here next year, no questions. That's your back line that played last night, and Robinson included in that. Jeff Larentowicz, question is going to be if he comes back or not. We don't know yet. You have to go get a 6, in my opinion. Either way, that's going to be a priority going forward. You're going to have to, I guess, have turnover there, but you're going to have to upgrade that position. You're bringing in Marcelino Moreno. You have Emerson Heineman, who signed a new deal. You have Mateo Sosetu, who you just signed. Those are 3 guys who can play the 8/10. You're good. Mo Adams, I don't know his situation. Going to be deeper down the roster. Not to say that it's not important, but it's not a game changer at the moment. Ezequiel Barco under contract. You're not going to lose control of his contract. We'll see about a transfer. We'll see if that happens. Joseph is under contract. No worries there. Gallagher, I don't know. I don't know where he is in his contract from a rookie deal. I don't know if he re-upped. I would assume that there's at least an option. because we haven't heard anything about being out of contract at the end of the year. I'd assume there's at least an option. He's done a lot to pick it up, so there's a very good question or very good expectation he'd be back. Mulraney, new this year. Based off his history, could it have been a one-year deal with an option? I guess, but I don't think you're going to lose him if you don't want to. Remedi is a bigger question mark because if Escobar signed a 3-year deal, Remedi could have signed a 3. He came in the middle of 2018, so he could have signed a 2.5-year deal. He could have signed a 3.5-year deal. He could have signed a 3-year deal, and his contract will be up in the summer. That's not what MLS teams typically do, but it does happen from time to time. There will be questions about Remedi going forward because I think you're going to have to make a decision any which way. If not in this window in January, very, very soon. You're going to have to figure out what you do there. And with adding Moreno into that part, I think you need a 6. I just don't know where he fits in with the other pieces in the roster already. So that's not a ton of turnover. If Barco goes, you have a designated player to work with. You're going to have the U22 initiatives to work with. You're going to have Eric Lopez coming in. So you're going to have some turnover. Every MLS team does. Don't freak out about turnover. Last year, you had turnover because you had contracts up at the same time, and you had the Darlington Nagbe situation where he was ready to walk at the end of his deal for nothing. You had to get something for it. So I disagree that a manager wouldn't take the job because of turnover. That's just not the case. That's just not the case here. And you're not going to be the San Jose Earthquakes in terms of talent. Come on now. Seriously. I know people are frustrated, but that's not the case. There's just, I don't know what else to tell you. It's just not. You can look at the rosters.
Let's see. Caleb Wright says it was a disappointing result in a string of disappointing results, but at least there have been quality chances created that are expected of the team. # kick childhood cancer.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's I don't want to just simplify it and say the same thing over and over again, but you give up goals in the 7th minute, you're going to lose games. There's really not a whole lot to it. You did create 8 chances. You did have 5 shots on target. The 5 shots on target is good. The 8 chances is not good. You need to create more. But that's kind of the expectation of where you are right now, and especially in a lineup without 3 of your biggest creators this season per 90 minutes played. Pity Martinez, Ezequiel Barco, Jurgen Damm. Those are your 3 top creators in terms of shot-creating actions per 90 minutes played. And you were missing all of them in this game. And that's a huge chunk of the shot-creating actions that you have as a team. I'm going to pull it up, and this is before last night's match. They don't have those stats that come in immediately. The overall shot-created actions per 90 minutes for Atlanta United this season is 15.23. Pitti was creating 5.2 per 90. Barco is creating 4 per 90. Dom's creating 3.5 per 90. There you go. Gallagher stepped up. He's over 2 now. Again, this is before last night. Castro was just under 2 per 90. He had that great match against Red Bulls that in terms of creating shots, he didn't finish them, but he created them. Hindman is just under 2. Josetu's at about 1.5. Mulraney's at about 1.5. That's where you're at. You lose your top 3 shot creation guys, you're going to struggle to create shots. That's just where it is.
Nathan Pugh on a # Overreaction Monday is offering a bit of a distraction with a multiple choice test. Which was the bigger upset over the weekend? A, Hoffenheim over Bayern.
Pretty big.
B, Leicester over Man City.
With the injuries that Man City's dealing with, not quite as big of an upset.
C, Kansas State over Oklahoma.
Is it as big as Hoffenheim over Bayern? You'd have to tell me. You're the football guy around here.
Well, considering that it was in Norman, I would say that would play into it, but not as big.
I'm still going Hoffenheim.
Yeah. D, Nathan's fantasy football teams win.
That's pretty shocking, but I'm still going to go Hoffenheim.
E, San Jose over LAFC.
Ooh, there we go. I'm still going to go Hoffenheim because LAFC. How many games LAFC won? First off, how many games has Atlanta United won this season?
I believe it's 4, isn't it?
You would be correct. It is 4. They're on 14 points, 4 wins, 8 losses, 2 draws. How many wins does LAFC have this season?
Scrolling down quickly, the answer is 5.
Well, I was hoping you would try to answer that off the top of your head because I think everybody seems to think LAFC's got 6 or 7 or 8. They've got 5. They're not the same old LAFC anymore. So the San Jose win was shocking because of how bad San Jose's been lately. But LAFC is not what they used to be. Bayern still is what they used to be, even if they were tired. They had not lost in 24, and Hoffenheim punched them in the mouth repeatedly. So full credit to Hoffenheim. That was the upset of the weekend.
Chris Ashley's in this morning. He says, I know there'll be plenty to discuss from the Atlanta-Chicago match, but I have my own, in all capital letters, #Overreaction Monday issue to discuss.
Uh-oh, okay.
Ricardo Pepi subbed into at FC Dallas's match against Atlanta on Wednesday. He then started for at North Texas SC on Friday against at GVL Triumph, and then a day and a half later, he came into FC Dallas's match against at Orlando City SC. Do the protocols not exist as we think?
The last part's the question. You got to be specific on it, and the last part's the part that I don't understand. Because he played on Wednesday, fine. He's under MLS contract. He can play on Wednesday. Moving from MLS to USL, we've seen players do that quickly. J.J. Williams played quickly after moving. The way it was reported, and I think it was Doug who had it at that time, if he wanted to come back to MLS from USL, it would be the 10-day quarantine protocol. Well, he obviously didn't do that in this case, Ricardo Pepi. So that part, we know that players knew coming into the MLS protocol, it takes 10 days. Because that was the case for Gonzalo Higuain. That was the case for Blaise Matuidi. That'll be the case for Marcelino Moreno. These are guys coming in from outside the league. We had heard that was the case for players domestically moving from USL to MLS. That's been widely reported. Doug isn't the only one who's had that. That's been widely reported. Well, obviously it wasn't. The moving to USL part, no question. And I know there were some people trying to start an issue with that one, talking about North Texas breaking rules. No. There has not been a question about going from MLS to USL. It's been coming back to MLS. And everybody's reported it one way. I don't know. I'm just going by what's been reported. I wish the league had been a little more clear about this situation. And if it's changed, tell us. Now, I know people are going to start talking Eric Lopez. That's a completely different situation entirely. That's not this. Because Eric Lopez, according to the initial announcement of his move, was loaned to Atlanta United 2. That would mean he is essentially contracted as an Atlanta United 2 player for the year. You have to be on an MLS deal to be able to go back and forth like this. He would not be. So he's a different conversation entirely. But other guys moving back and forth, I don't know. It had been reported 10 days to come back into MLS by a lot of people and for a while. I don't know how Pepi was able to play last night. That's the one that I don't understand. And MLS needs to answer it because otherwise people are going to be confused and not understand this. Because teams have talked about, not just Atlanta, teams have talked about, hey, it's not easy for players to go back and forth right now. We can't do this, we can't do that. Well, how did Dallas do this? Because he traveled with North Texas. I mean, the USL protocol's a conversation that's separate entirely. They test once a week. And I guess they don't really care, which is not necessarily a good thing. If he played Wednesday and played Friday in USL, unless they just got lucky and the tests for North Texas were on Thursday, or because there's nothing to stop this because they're not under a lockdown, The tests were Tuesday or Wednesday, and he went ahead and took the USL test as well and still played with MLS on Wednesday and then was eligible to play for USL on Friday. That part, I can find different things to make that make sense to me. The part where he played last night makes no sense because you're coming back from USL, and that had been reported as a 10-day wait. So I don't know.
Nathan is back in, and he says, I have not had a chance to listen to this, by the way, but he says, the only thing missing from the spicy Southern fried soccer last night was a little pinch of John, some salty takes with some upside-down smile emojis.
No, Doug and I had a conversation about Ezequiel Barco, and nothing is different than what I've said to you guys or what I've said to Doug before. You're not judging players and their values just based on how many goals they score. You're not. The younger a player is, there's a premium for potential. That's what Atlanta United paid for him. You're also not judging right now on the transfer market, comparing it to when somebody was purchased. Because right now, there's a global pandemic going on, and it's affected the transfer market worldwide. These things are real. We went back and forth on it. I feel like, and I told him it's the same thing that I feel like he was too harsh on Pitti about, with it's not just stats. It's not just goals for those guys. It is creating opportunities, and we just went through it. If Atlanta's creating 15 shot-creating actions per game right now, per 90 minutes played, and Pitti was creating over 5, and Barco's creating over 4, well, that tells you how important they are to this team when they're on the field. Now, has Barco had injury problems? Absolutely. Does that affect you? Absolutely. What Stephen Glass said last night needs to be understood here because I think it's been twisted and taken out of context and selectively discussed. There was a question about training. Barco, according to Stephen Glass, has trained with the first team. He's trained with the team. And then he hasn't felt right. And he's went back to a modified training, which is basically working on the side. If you want to go with the English Premier League terminology here, yes, he's working on the side. Modified training, not with the team. That's the important thing, because something didn't feel right. When players are coming back from injury or they are day-to-day, that's pretty common, y'all. Like, to train and say, hey, it's still not right. Something's not right here. Okay, you don't train the next day with the team. You train on the side. You're working with a trainer. You're checking out what is not right. I mean, the All or Nothing, I think, documentary gives you a glimpse at how this kind of stuff works, and it's good for these things to come out. It's not easy. I wish we knew exactly what it was. The team's under no obligation to go into detail for a couple reasons. Competitive advantage. Teams don't know if he's going to play or not. That's good, because they don't know how to prepare. Also financial. Because if, and there were rumors a month ago about a potential move, you're not going to start talking about a chronic injury if there's a chronic injury. You're not. He's going to do a medical and it's going to get checked out, but you're not going to start advertising this stuff. You want it to get right. It's close enough to where he's training with the first team, but it's not good enough to where he can train multiple days in a row with it feeling right. That happens. That's a process. And I think people trying to put other things to it, and that's one thing I did shut down last night when we were talking about this, because it's pure speculation, and it's not fair to Barco. It's not fair to the team to say that there's this, nefarious reason for him not playing. That doesn't benefit anybody. There hasn't been a rumor about Sevilla or Fiorentina in a little while. Money's tight. These types of moves are the moves that get affected. The big moves are going to happen with the big clubs. The $10 to $30 million kind of moves, 15 to 30, wherever you want to draw the lines, players coming in from outside with a bigger question mark on them, those are the moves that clubs can't be as speculative on right now. You can't take as many chances at the moment. You don't have as much money to work with. So what the market looks like at the moment, who knows? Who knows? But no, Doug and I, we talked about that. We're both passionate about what we're talking about. And then afterwards, we talked for another 20 minutes about stuff. So it's all good. But that's what conversation is. And That's what differences of opinion is. I feel very strongly that it's been way too harsh, the criticism on Pitti and Barco, because they don't score goals, so they haven't been effective. And I disagree with that. I think they've been incredibly effective. With Barco, you'd like him to be effective more consistently because of the injury situation. They're not all the same injury, and I don't think he is not a hard worker. I don't think that's fair to put that on him. So pushing back on that, and that's where we're at. It's all good.
Topka says he can't listen live today, but here's his tweet, and it has to do with Higuain from last night. He says, there's nothing more peak anti-MLS buffoonery than whining about MLS being a poor league because Higuain got chided by his opponent after skying his first penalty. Laughing, crying emoji. Euro snobs have reached a whole new level, exclamation point.
I didn't see that. Well, I wonder if they said the same thing when Arsenal went after Van Nistelrooy after he missed the penalty. I mean, because that happened in the Premier League, and that was a thing. That was also a nasty rivalry at that point, to the expectation that they were going to fight in tunnels, which they did. That got way out of hand, and it showed in that situation. I don't know where this one got way out of hand for. That's the part that I don't understand, because that was a very aggressive reaction to it. But no, that I did not see the Euro snobbery on this, and I'm very sad by the Euro snobbery. Roman Torres headed back to Seattle, traded by Miami to the Sounders in exchange for a draft pick. Sam Stejkal, Paul Tenorio have that one. No shock when Leandro Gonzalez-Perez showed up in Miami. Roman Torres was pushed to the bench and has barely played. So he's got value. You can get something out of him. You make the move. And there you go. He goes back to Seattle, where they could use a little extra depth at center back. He goes back to a place he's had success. Done.
Rich Ransom does come back in a little later in the timeline and goes into more detail about Negadelphia, as he calls it.
Don't be Negadelphia. It's not fun. I know. I live in Atlanta, Rich. Super Bowl, remember?
Yeah, well, and I also listened to Merrill Reese call the end of overtime yesterday with the Eagles and Cincinnati, so I know all about Negadelphia from a play-by-play perspective.
That's meh. It frustrates me here, and I understand it because I feel it too. With the Falcons yesterday, you kept waiting for them to blow it because they'd blown it last week, and they found a way to blow it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still not a fun place to be, and I don't know why it carries over from the Falcons to now Atlanta United blows things. No, Atlanta United's got a bunch of injuries, and they're fielding a team that is nowhere near full strength right now. Mm-hmm. So to expect full-strength results with a nowhere-near full-strength lineup, I don't know what to tell you. It's definitely not the negativity of the Falcons, that's for sure.
Joe Laszlo on his hashtag Overreaction Monday says, Barco's who should have been loaned to Indy 11, basically stealing from Atlanta.
Joe. I'm not going to push back on that because I got nothing. You don't loan $15 million players. You don't loan players who are drawing interest from Sevilla or Fiorentina. Either you think the interest from big sources in Europe, big sources in Argentina, from two big clubs, actually three because Leon was in the mix too. They're not going to Indy 11 looking for talent, guys. And this is why I pushed back last night with Doug. Barco's a talent. There are plenty of very intelligent people in the world in this game who think he's a talent. He's not going to Indy 11. He's not stealing from Atlanta United. He's been injured. And if you don't believe that, tell me why. Because tell me where there's something actually credible to go on. People saying things on Twitter, shockingly, is not credible. Random folks saying conspiracy theories on Twitter, I know, wild, shocking, is not credible. Why would Barco be wanting to steal money from a club? You tell me. He's young. He's got a whole career ahead of him. Why would he want to bring that into question? Okay. If there's no answer to that, he's trying to force a move. That's the latest one I've seen. What move? Where? Because the last rumors were a while ago. Could there be something cooking? Yeah, there absolutely could. You got a week left now. a week and a few hours in the transfer window in Europe. You could see dominoes fall. You could have had a club that said, you know what, we can't spend this money right now, but if we sell this player, then we have money to spend. We might come back then. It might be right up against the end of it, et cetera, et cetera. Could that happen? Absolutely. But hold on. But you're drawing correlations from nothing and making them fact. And that's wrong. You're calling people liars. And that's wrong because you have nothing to base that on. Nothing. So, and Joe, I mean, again, he's stealing money from Atlanta United. No, he's not. That's not true. I don't know what else to tell you because if you don't rate him, somebody at Sevilla does. Fiorentina does. All of the pundits who watched the U20 World Cup last year did. I can't fix that. I can't do anything to change it. If we're only going to judge players on goals and assists, well, there's a lot of useless players in every team. Because there's a lot of players who don't contribute to the scoreboard or the assist. And they don't matter as much, which is absolutely not true. You need an entire team, and you need people to create opportunities. If you don't like Barco's style as a player, it's fine. In Argentina, there are people who don't like that style of player. There are people who love that style of player. Just like it is around the world. There are people who think that Neymar is garbage, and he is obviously not garbage. There are people who think that Messi doesn't have a smart soccer IQ. That is obviously not the case. People have opinions, and that's fine. There are some that are just bad opinions. If you don't rate Barco, I can't change that for you. But there are a lot of people who do. When he was purchased, he was one of the top young talents coming out of South America. Has he delivered on that, what he did at 18? In South America with Independiente. Let's go back on it. He's had injuries that have slowed him down, that have made it stop-start for him. He had an issue off the field with a teammate, and that has nothing to do with anything now, and I don't even know why it's being brought up, because it was 2 years ago. And those two guys worked it out. So if they worked it out, I think anybody else on the outside can get over it. He had a great start to the season last year. He went to Argentina's U20s to the World Cup and had a great World Cup. And then he came back and got kicked in the inside of the knee and wasn't right the rest of the year. That's being kicked. There's nothing he did wrong in that. There's nothing to blame him for. That took him a long time to recover from. Too many exciting, talented young players get kicked out of games. And you want to talk about opinions on the way the game works and the way the game's played? Those are the situations that drive me insane. Because you can go find people who can kick players anywhere in the world all day long. Easy. You don't go find players that are as talented as Ezequiel Barco anywhere you look. And when they're allowed to be kicked off the field, and not just last year, he's being fouled 5 times per 90 minutes played right now. It's an absurd amount. I'm sorry, I'm going to go with the talented player that is more rare, because I want people who can play, as opposed to the guy who can just kick people. I don't embrace that. I don't embrace that kind of play. I don't embrace that game. And if that's what gets embraced over a player who's talented, I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing. But he's got to be able to play. He's got to be able to get minutes because he still has developing to do. He does. He's a young player. Lots of young players have developing to do. There's nothing wrong with that. He does. But when he's not playing consistently, that development is harder to achieve. And that's where you're at right now. That's all I got.
Chris Hutchison, he says, get the new coaching hire right. Make sure that the front office and the coaches are working together on new player acquisitions that support whatever the plan is. Make as good a use of this giant asterisk of a year as possible. Uncle Arthur deserves better from both of his teams.
Get the new hire right 100%. It's the most important hire this club's ever made. That is accurate. Draw a line backwards a little bit on how much the coach is going to be involved in the roster, because that's not the case in a lot of places in the world. That part's got to stop. That's not what you're bringing them in here for. You're bringing them in to coach. You're bringing them in to get the most out of the group of players they have in front of them. Are they going to have input potentially? Yeah. Are big names going to want more input? Yeah, that's the dance you do. Do big names always get all the input? No, they don't. Do they get to make suggestions? Yep. Do they get to give advice? Yep. Do they have some connections that might help bring players in? Yep. Do they make the whole roster? No. They don't. And as we went through, there's not a lot of guys who are out of contract next year. You are going to have the ability to add players. This U22 initiative creates a new wrinkle, and how you exploit it will be very important. I don't think it matters who the manager is that you need a number 6 in this team. Now, what kind of 6 you might prioritize, yes, that could have something to do with it. But you need a 6, period. That's the biggest need. That is your biggest need with where we are right now. If Barco gets sold, then you're talking about a left winger. Or a number 10, depending on it. I think you're talking about a left winger. But that's where you're at right now. You do need to get this hire right, no question. But they're not remaking the roster. That also needs to be understood.
Shiva's in this morning. It's a harsh reality that we have to just accept and move on. We simply are missing key players, and it is hard to have a consistent performance without a consistent lineup. What is encouraging, though, is that players and coaching staff is giving it their all, fighting for the club and the crest. They have to carry the same attitude game in and game out, and hopefully into 2021. I hope we make the playoffs, but if not, let's accept the reality, stay positive, and move on.
It's a season that's hard. I mean, it happens to all kinds of teams all over the place, and you add a pandemic that has never happened to any team on top of it, and this is where you're at in 2020. It stinks. You still got games to play. You still got a chance to get into the playoffs. You get into the playoffs, anything can happen. That's still out there. There's no benefit to saying we don't want to make the playoffs. I don't know why that's started to become a narrative. You don't get you do get a better draft pick, but it doesn't mean anything really. You don't get any other big benefits from it. I think you might get just a little bit more allocation money, but we don't know how the CBA is going to work for that going forward. So that's a bit of a question mark too. You have an opportunity to play your way in. You're going to try to play your way in. Otherwise, why are we doing any of this? That doesn't make sense. If you don't get in, you don't get in. There are things we can talk about on multiple levels here. Big picture, this team doesn't have a lot of attacking talent on the field right now. So they're not going to score a lot of goals. That's a fact. This team is still making some mistakes in parts of the field they can't. And that's real. And that's on the players that are on there. Because, you know, the turnover that led to the first goal has nothing to do without Joseph Martinez on the field or Pitti or Barco or anybody else. It's a giveaway at midfield that you can't give away. You can't do that. And it's an awful mistake. And it costs you a goal for a team that's lacking in confidence. It's a big dent. You saw Brad Kazan's reaction. He was furious. And I don't know if that helped, talking about body language, to be perfectly honest, but you saw the emotion of what it meant after conceding when you did. You can't do that right now. The team's not good enough to overcome it. You're not creating enough chances. So you can't concede first. And you did. And that's real. And that has nothing to do with the players that are absent, because that's not an attacking thing. The attacking thing is you can't make those mistakes even more than normal right now because you don't have much of an attack because of the injuries. Right now, I mean, you're getting ready for a match in less than a week. You are hoping that your day-to-day guys, at least some of them, are able to contribute in that match, because Jurgen Damm could be back, Ezekiel Barco could be back, Miles Robinson could be back, and that could open up Brooks Lennon to play higher up the field. You do have some possibilities for a very different, more attacking lineup next weekend. There are possibilities right now, though. We just don't know.
Abby's in this morning, and she says she can't be on this AM, but wanted to pass along some things before her overreaction started. We played 7 games in September. 7 games.
That's a lot.
We had 6 players out on injury last night. A second game without a DP. It is to take its toll physically and mentally.
Yeah, I mean, that's all true. 7 games in a month is a lot. That many players out injured is a lot. I mean, look at all the people who are coming off the field right now with hamstring issues, with quad issues. It's happening all over the league. It stinks. It's 2020. It's going to happen all over Europe. It's going to happen in South America as well. Who was it that I saw? Son from Tottenham out with a hamstring. You're playing a lot of games in a short period of time at the moment. And even teams that have more depth right now and don't have a salary cap are struggling with this. So, of course, Atlanta United's struggling with it. That's the big picture, and that is part of the equation. But that doesn't make it okay to make some of the mistakes that the team's made as well. And that's the balancing act. It's not an either-or. It's not by saying that, hey, they don't have a lot of talent right now on the field in the attacking spots because of injuries, and they've played a bunch of games and they're tired. That doesn't give you diplomatic immunity to make mistakes. No. It's part of the equation. The mistakes, as I've felt for a while, that's what's costing you points. Did it cost you 3? Maybe not. But it cost you a point. Because if you don't make any mistakes, that's a scoreless draw. Because you didn't score. You did make mistakes. So you did not get that scoreless draw. So that's a point dropped. And that's where you're at. And you're dropping points in those ways far too often at the moment.
Couple of points from Daniel Price this morning. He says, good morning, first off.
Good morning.
Let me just start by clarifying what I said last night when I said sit back and park the bus. I meant that in more of a sense of doing it to get organized, get comfortable on the ball so you don't make mistakes, get the heart rate down. And even though it was a rough night, thank y'all, meaning you and Mike, for continuing to give us quality calls. The fan base, myself included, are lucky to have you two behind the mic and being as passionate, if not more so, than we are for the team we love. Keep it up. I also thought John was great last night. Wish his 2 chances went in. He deserved them, in my opinion. Why can't their goalie just get out of the way? Sheesh.
Some of it's terminology, Daniel. Like parking the bus is a specific term about not just the way you defend, but the way you play. And this team's not going to play that way. So the plan last night was to be aggressive and play in the other team's half. Now, you weren't able to do that enough. Early on, you made some mistakes before the goal that made it difficult to play in the other team's half. You didn't look comfortable. If you work all week on a plan, or you work in whatever amount of sessions you have on the plan, which is to play in the other team's half, so that means you're not going to build up as much. You want to play in their half. You want to be aggressive. When Atlanta was able to press Chicago, you saw Chicago give the ball away quite a bit. So it's a good plan, in my opinion. But early on, you were too shaky to do it. So, okay, at that point, you're not parking the bus because you're not putting everybody behind the ball. That's parking the bus. You're not just saying we're not going to try to attack. You're trying to do things like that. That's where I push back on parking the bus. This team's not going to be one that parks the bus unless you have a situation like Minnesota where you're playing in awful conditions and you're a man down, and that's what you have on the night. That will happen in something like that. It's not going to be something the team's going to opt for, not to start matches. I think the plan was basically what you're talking about, Daniel, in terms of playing in the other team's half, playing a little more direct to not put yourself under pressure, and pressing over there, not giving up opportunities in front of your own goal. That was the idea. That didn't work. Why? I don't know. Atlanta found it difficult to build up out of the back, but they didn't skip the lines enough. They didn't keep the ball in the other half. And then you had a bad turnover. And you looked shaky early on, and that's back to that poor start. And that just can't be the case going forward. I don't think you fix it by being more defensive, though. And trying to get people touches. That's something they do consistently. They did that a lot in the MLS's back tournament. Last night, they actually went for something a little different. I think they tried to play a little more direct early to get the ball into the other half and play there, but they weren't able to keep it there. And that's where you're at.
Chris Bartlesky's in this morning. He says, looked to me like Adam John was the biggest threat before being subbed off. I don't get it at all the way they played after he got subbed. You needed a tall aerial presence.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by the sub. I think the idea with Chicago being a team that has struggled late in games and was looking fatigued as well, Gwen's really fired up about Adam John as well. Mm-hmm. I think the idea was to have more pace. It didn't work. It didn't. Would Adam John have been better if he had stayed on? I mean, we're not going to know. He played really well. He said he wasn't tired at that point. I think the idea was to get more pace on, and that part did not work.
Katie wear a mask is how she's now IDing herself on Twitter. She says, I saw a stat last night that DC had missed something like 64 man games of their 14 actual games due to injuries. Would be curious what Atlanta's number would be. It's no small thing. A goal this season should be to at least finish above DC with the fingers crossed emoji.
I mean, it depends on how you're creating that, because that's kind of a weird stat. It feels like it could be easily manipulated. I mean, just quickly, if you're going with your best 11, Joseph would be in it. So he's missed 13 games. Fernando Meza would be in it, and he has missed 6 games. Ezequiel Barco would be in it. He's missed 6 games in terms of starts, so he's missed 4 off the bench. Who else? Those are the big ones. You added Jurgen Damm when you did. He's missed a couple since he was added to the team. I mean, those 3 are big if you're just looking at the starts. Joseph 13, Meza 6, Barco 6. Damm's only started 1 game, and I don't know how many he's been really fit for. Maybe 7 or 8, and he's played in 5. If you're taking the games he's missed recently out, so add that to the equation, and that's where you're at. It stinks. I mean, it's just hard. You've only got one person who started every match. That's Brad Kazan. Lennon's next in minutes by a pretty wide margin. He started 13. Escobar started 11. Remedi started 10. Robinson started 10. He's missed games due to injuries, so you'd add him to the mix. Bello has started 10. Heineman has started 10. That's all your guys in double figures and starts out of 14 games. That's not really where you want to be.
We got more stuff on the Twitters. You want me to thank somebody first since it's the top of the hour?
Yes. Why don't you do that? Tell us about Steve Apolinsky, por favor.
I can certainly do that. Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network for wrongful death and serious injury matters. If this is a conversation that you need to have, you can catch up with Steve and his legal team in a couple of different ways. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com. You can get a free consultation by calling 404-377-9191. And you can also go to their website, aa-legal.com. You hit return, you hit enter, you hit the advance key, whatever device you're using. Screen pops up, you get a pop-up window, low right, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up. So there you go. And you can have a conversation with someone in a chat, 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you for that always, Chris Hutchison. For Legal Elite, as recommended by Georgia Trend Magazine. Top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia for wrongful death and serious injury matters. There's only one location that you should consult and head toward. This is Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. The website is aa-legal.com.
Nicely done. I am drinking my Humex strawberry banana that I should have put on San Jose last night.
Plus 1056.
What a plonker.
I'm the plonker. I'm always like, that's a wild guy. Yes, because what did I say Wednesday? Take your crazy juice boxes and go buy a case of them and put them on San Jose, and they got blown out. I said, no, you can't do that anymore. What do? They win. This should have got me more juice boxes. It did not. I'm drinking it instead.
How is the strawberry banana humex, by the way?
Really tasty.
Okay. Just checking. Chiefs coach Steve is in this morning, and he says, as a card-carrying member of the Pollyanna Committee, I'm having a hard time finding any positives. Help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope. Hashtag overreaction Monday. And he's included a picture of a T-shirt, apparently, that says, Marty, whatever happens, don't ever go to 2020.
I mean, we've talked about it. You know, there are positives. You're seeing that John Gallagher's an MLS player. You're seeing good things from young Tyler Wolff. You're seeing that Franco Escobar can play center back, which gives you some different possibilities going forward, because I do think people will come calling for Miles Robinson here at some point. But you're going to have Meza and Robinson and Escobar next year. I think that still moves Escobar back to right back. Then what does that do for Lennon? You've got some interesting conundrums with your lineups because of the talent you have. Bello is turning into a top left back. He looked tired. I don't think he could get up the field as much as you wanted him last night, but defensively he was up to the task again. You're learning some things about some players you needed to find out about. These things are good. You're still in the mix. I mean, the table is drunk. The table passed in the Eastern Conference, the number 4 spot, which is Orlando at 26 points, is pretty intoxicated. I mean, New England, NYC, Red Bulls are all on 20 or 21. You're on 14, and you've got 9 games left. 9 games, 3 points each. Just 27 points available, and you're 7 points out of 5th.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that's being chalked away right now, because nobody's consistent at the moment. Out of this level, I think Columbus is consistently good. I think Philadelphia is consistently good. I think Toronto's showing that we have to consider them consistently good, and Orlando's really close to that. Past that, I mean, New England's had bad losses, bad results. NYC's had bad results recently. Red Bulls have started to put it together in their last 2, which is really surprising. They scored a bunch of goals unexpectedly. Montreal just gave up a bunch of goals to the Red Bulls. Nashville, I think, will make the playoffs, and I think they'll move up the table when they get Cadiz. They should have gotten a full 3 points. They blew it at the end. Just absolutely blew it against Houston at the end. Chicago, finally back-to-back wins now. Can they continue to build on it? Chicago's not a bad team. Not a bad team at all. But how are they going to handle when the schedule gets more compressed again? Do they have the depth? I don't really think they do. But they're starting to play with some confidence, which is what Atlanta's lacking right now. Cincinnati, Miami, DC are behind you. Crapshoot at this point. And the West isn't a whole lot different, y'all. I mean, you know, Dallas, who you just beat, is 4th on 20 points. Sporting Kansas City blows games at home for some reason that make no sense. Portland and Seattle, I think, are a step above the rest. Colorado will win 5-0 and lose 5-0. I have no idea. Minnesota could be better with Bebelo Reynoso. They should be. We'll see if that continues. LAFC might score 5, might concede 6. Who knows? Real Salt Lake's all over the place. Houston's all over the place. Vancouver's all over the place. The Galaxy are all over the place. San Jose invented all over the place. That's 2020. So you're trying to get into the postseason and see what happens. That's all you can do with this season right now. Just get in, just keep fighting, get in the door, and make some noise if you can.
Bartimus Prime's in this morning. He says, I accept that much of my frustration last night stemmed from another Falcons collapse, but I still can't stomach being shut out by a team that's given up 1.57 goals per match. This Atlanta United team is a struggle to watch. Going back to my point from Friday, the Dallas result was cool, but the team needed a result in Chicago more due to standings in the conference table. Atlanta United failed to keep the same focus from Wednesday and let themselves and the fans down. Hashtag overreaction Monday.
They let themselves down with the mistake that they made. And that's not everybody. Look, Eric Remedi struggled for a while. This isn't new either. It's sad because when Remedi came in 2018, he was incredibly impactful. in winning MLS Cup with this team. When Darlington Nagbe was out, Remedi stepped right in and was very, very good. He hasn't played at that level for over a year now. It's not. It wasn't a Frank de Boer thing. It's still not at that level. He's making mistakes that are just you can't make at this level. You just can't. And it's frustrating because you don't expect a player of his quality to consistently make them, but he has been. And he opened that door last night. You can't drive yourself crazy with saying, well, Chicago's given up 1.5 goals a year, all year, and they should have given up 1.5 here. I mean, teams change. Chicago's gotten better. Chicago has had time to work under Rafael Vicky. I think he's going to continue to make them better. They're a good team. They're starting a center back, Pineda, who I really like, a homegrown that they signed out of UNC, who had been part of their academy. He's still kind of getting it figured out. Calvo's been good for them. You've got good outside backs in Bornstein and Sekulic and Navarro when he plays. Their holding midfield is the engine of that team. And now that they are whole in that regard with Jimenez and with Medran, they're tough. They're tough to break down. That was the part that Atlanta needed to win last night, and they didn't. And that's why they ultimately did not win. They've also found Fabian Herbers playing as a 10. And I mean, he created 7 chances last night. That's a lot. He scored a goal. He's been really good in making the other pieces fit. Playing him centrally and Mihailovic out wide, you look at their histories, you think it would be reversed. It's better this way because it almost turns into a 4-4-2 empty bucket at times because Herbers is comfortable playing up top. Baric will roam and go find the game. And you're playing better right now without Frankowski, who's been a disappointment for them. They've been better without him. And Aliseda is going to continue to get better. So this is not a bad Chicago team. They started poorly. They've improved. So I don't think even the 1.57 is consistent. But yes, I think a lot of people were frustrated after what you saw last night on top of what you saw with the Falcons, which has been an epic record-setting back-to-back set of inexplicable losses that just drive you crazy.
Okay, here's Rich's explanation about Negadelphia. He says, where Philly sports never goes well for a number of years, he says, Negadelphia. Where Philly sports never goes well for a number of years, then as soon as it starts getting good, boom, they start getting bad. Even though the Union are great, we're holding our breath up here. Every Union win streak snapped horribly. The 3 USOC finals lost in the worst ways possible. Hashtag MLS is back. Great run, but lost in a way to us heartbreakingly. We're holding our breath until we're holding MLS Cup. At least Atlanta United won something before their downturn.
It's not much of a downturn, Rich, but watch that one. Still enjoy it. I mean, that's the one good thing about Atlanta winning in the second year. You had negative people who were trying to bring Falcons misery into Atlanta United, which had nothing to do with it. You had that going on at the time. I mean, you had people make gimmicks on social media about being the negative person. Yay. With a team that was 2 years old. Yay. They won. So it was embraced a little bit more and celebrated. You can do that too. It's up to you guys if you want to enjoy it or not. Just don't be constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop and not enjoy what's in front of you. That's all I would say. You've got, in my opinion, the best team in the league. I think Philadelphia is the best team in the league, and keeping Aronson will keep them there. Are they going to lose some games? Yeah. Are they going to win the big one? I don't know yet. But they're the best team in the league, and enjoy it. It's good soccer. It's fun to watch. Philly's a team that I try to watch on a regular basis because I enjoy the way they play.
5 Stripe Dailies in this morning. It's 2021. Atlanta United has broken their own attendance records on the way to the first ever undefeated MLS season, and Joseph Martinez has 47 goals. How much of this record-breaking season can you trace back to the team learning to play through adversity in 2020?
Depends on how much of the roster's consistent, which I think it will be. I think a lot of it will be. You've got to have leaders emerge. That's the biggest thing that I'm still waiting on right now. It's a team that struggled this season. It's a team that's got reasons why it struggled. Absolutely valid reasons why it struggled. But you're not seeing players consistently step up to try to lead this group through it. That's been frustrating. That shouldn't be the case. Joseph Martinez being injured is a vacuum for sure that has not been filled. Michael Parkhurst retiring, I think Michael Parkhurst was far more important behind the scenes than people gave him credit for, and that's a vacuum. But that's got to change. And if you're going to be in la-la land like this is, then you've got to have leaders emerge. You got to get Joseph back. He'll help with that. He'll help with the on-the-field reactions. But you need somebody in the locker room who is getting this group organized and pushing forward, because it feels like it's lacking at times. It does, and I don't think that should be the case, but it feels like it is. And should be basically a clean slate at this point. That has to happen down the stretch here. Regardless of the results, that has to happen. That has to be a takeaway from this season, that leaders are emerging in the group.
Let's see. Ricky Ricardo is back in, and he says, the only thing I'm going to acknowledge from yesterday was the sweet story from Marcelino Moreno getting his parents a house before leaving Argentina. Otherwise, yesterday didn't happen. # kick childhood cancer.
That was very cool. Marcelino's a good dude, and excited to get him here and get him into the mix. We are about halfway through the scarf order, which is awesome. We sold a lot of scarves so far. We've still got about 50 more to go. Actually, not about 45 more to go. So we still need your help on this. A lot of people have also made donations on top of either buying a scarf, or some people have just made a donation. All that is so appreciated, because we want to help Marcelino's original club, Palmyra, and help their kids 4 to 8, which are part of the Escuela de Fútbol Marcelino Moreno. They named the soccer school for their youngest kids after him, and we want to help them out as a way to welcome him to the ATL. So still selling those scarves. They are on the way. They should be here this week, so we'll start to get them out to folks. Please help us spread the word. I think you see that video and you see what kind of a person he is. We've heard that from former coaches of his. We've heard that from teammates of his. This is a guy that I think Atlanta will really love, and we want to welcome him in the right way right now. So please share the word on that scarf so we can sell all of these and make as big of a donation as possible to Atlético Palmyra to honor the school that is named after him.
And also, Ricky sends some soccer over there news for later today. FIFA from Tariq Panja. FIFA has given Marco Antonio Travato Villalba, president of Paraguay's most successful team, Olimpia, the 3-time Libertadores winners, a lifetime ban for match fixing. They last played in the Libertadores final in 2013, last won it in 2002.
Yeah, welcome to South America. Things get crazy. It happens. There's a lot of people, players, staff members, presidents, owners who are banned for lots of period of time in South America for lots of different things. This is just added to the list. We'll get deeper into it tonight.
Yeah. Daniel Price comes back in and says, the reason why Barco's injured more often is he's considered a threat by every club in MLS. The foul stats against him are proof enough. There's a reason he is always fouled, y'all. Proof's in the pudding, as I put it, apparently.
Well, yeah, and that was another thing that I talked about with Doug last night was, him getting fouled so much is a sign that he is contributing. You're creating free kick opportunities out of it. You still got to finish them, but it's the same as if you're creating chances. Somebody's still got to finish it. So creating chances, creating free kicks is part of creating chances. And he earns a lot. If they didn't really worry about him, he wouldn't be getting fouled in the same way. That part is very, very accurate. The frustrating thing is when these injuries, and we don't know what this injury is right now, and the team's not going to tell you. If you want to find out, find out. Like, do what I guess journalists do and find sources if you can't find it. But no, the team doesn't want to tell anybody about injuries if they don't have to. That's just sports. That's all sports. That's all coaches. Nobody wants to give that information away. I don't know if it was from being kicked or not here, but we know he missed a large chunk of last season for an egregious foul. I mean, he's got kicked in the inside of the knee off the field. It's horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody said anything about it. That's what drives me insane. Nobody said that was horrible. Nobody said it was awful. It's just all fine. Nicholas Figal throws a forearm into somebody's jaw, doesn't get anything out of it. Oh, no, that's fine. That's just how the game's played. No, it's not. It's crap. It's crap, and I'm sick and tired of not just it happening without players getting punished like it did with Figal, but now to the point that Atlanta's own players are being questioned for being any good when they're getting fouled in that way. That can't happen. It's disgusting to see this type of stuff embraced about the way the game's played with people getting kicked all over the field. That is not something to be celebrated. It's not. Referees, leagues all over the world, because this is not just an MLS thing, have to protect skilled players. Pelé said it in 1966 when he was punted off the field in England by multiple teams. And just, he was kicked out of the World Cup. Well, yeah, you cost him the World Cup. You probably affected Brazil's chances to win the World Cup, but, I guess that's just the way the game's played. No, it shouldn't be. Maradona was kicked out of the 1982 World Cup. Claudio Gentile basically ripped his shirt off of him during the match. Oh, that's great defending. No, it's not. It's crap. It's garbage. 1990 World Cup. Maradona's got an ankle as big as a cantaloupe because he's been brutalized on the field, somehow drags his team into the final. Oh, no, that's just how it's played. That's just how it is. No, it's not. What do we celebrate? Are we showing on a regular basis people getting kicked? Are those the highlights that go viral? No. You're seeing what happened in the Dutch League yesterday with an outstanding goal. You're seeing the guys nutmeg 5 people like you did in the Argentine friendly over the weekend. That's what we celebrate. Why aren't we protecting the players who do that stuff? They're the ones who need to be embraced. People who kick skilled players out of games do not need to be embraced, and it needs to be called out more. Because you're not going to produce skilled players in this country if players are being kicked out of games. And yeah, it affects Barco. I mean, does he have to find a way to stay on the field consistently? Yes, he does. But telling him to get rid of the ball quicker so he doesn't get kicked, I think we should be saying stop kicking talented players or face the punishment more than telling talented players to not show their talent. That's how I will always feel on it, and I don't think that's ever going to change.
Nathan Pugh's back in. He says, soccer is the most important of the least important things. Have a laugh, enjoy it. We'll score goals in buckets again soon. Plus, it could be worse. You could live in Orlando.
Yeah, you'd have to eat at Applebee's a lot, and it's not all that fun. I mean, they do have happy hours, I guess, which makes it a little bit better, but there's not
chicken
as many
and broccoli
options.
pasta is actually pretty good.
No, it's not, John. It's not any good.
Yeah.
No, it's not. That's
John.
Don't try. Don't do what you're doing because your food takes are no good, and we already know this. Caping for Applebee's is not going to help that situation.
I don't have an Applebee's frequent eater card, if that's what you're getting.
You're defending Applebee's quality of food, and I don't think that's going to fly very well. It's not good.
Well, you defended their happy hour.
Because they have alcohol. That has nothing to do with the food. If you drink enough, then anything will taste good.
Then the fact that you're at Applebee's disappears from your landscape?
If that's all you got and they're going to give you drink specials, then I guess that's all they have to stand on. That doesn't say much for their food.
Nick Brawley says, I'm just sad because we always tend to bring out the best in the other team's goalkeeper. I still think back to Stefan's excellent performance at the Benz in the 2017 playoffs.
They are good at that. Shuttleworth has had a couple of those nights, too. It just is what it is. I mean, that stuff evens out over time, but yeah, it happens. I mean, we remember those things more, too. I mean, we're not remembering some of the bad games from goalkeepers as much because you're not focused on it. You're focused on, man, how did Shuttleworth make a couple of those saves on Adam John? How did Zach Steffen keep some of those chances out? That's what you remember. So it all balances out.
And Daniel says Applebee's is bad. Hard stop. You're both bad.
No. I'm not taking I'm bad on that one. I said they have alcohol. Everybody has the same alcohol. Applebee's didn't make the alcohol. They just sell it to you for cheaper.
Then it comes down to the person behind the bar and how well they want
No, they do drink specials. I'm talking about the price. If they're giving you stuff and it's cheaper, they're trying to make up for the bad food. I'm not defending Applebee's in any way, shape, or form. No. Katie Weaver says, John has a pasta boat to microwave pasta. Predictable take to like the Applebee's broccoli noodles. Accurate. Ricky Ricardo says he worked there in high school. Please stop. You're giving me bad memories. Sorry, Ricky. We apologize. And talking about drunk eating, Captain Ragamuffin is 100% correct. That's why Taco Bell is so good at 2 a.m. Accurate.
And Crystal and White Castle and all that.
No, Crystal and White Castle are good on their own. Don't slander them in that way. Taco Bell late night drunk is kind of where it is. Waffle House is also good on its own, but it's better when it's late night drunk. That's accurate too.
No, I mean nothing like a triple order hash browns, scattered, smothered, covered, chunked, and topped, and grilled cheese sandwiches out of Waffle House, like at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Jason
Absolutely
Nick
awesome.
said they mix their $1 drinks in a bucket, very watered down, maybe worth the $1. If you're cheap, then hey, you got to do what you got to do, and that's the only way the food becomes good, if good is even the right word. All right, enough Applebee's talk.
Okay, well, one more from Daniel Price, and we're caught up on the timeline.
Okay,
best 11 right now: Kazan and net, Bello, Miles, Meza, Escobar at the back.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's got Mulaney, Barco, Lennon, Rometty, John, and Gallagher. He says he wanted to fit Dom in here somewhere, but he didn't know where to put him.
Okay, now go back because you're mixing up groups. Who are your three central midfielders?
That's a good question. It looks like Rometty, because he looks like he's all power forwardy. He's all forwards here. I think he just went best 11, but it looks like Barco, Lennon, Rometty, and then Mulaney, John, and Gallagher up top.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Lennon's not going to play centrally. That's no. Your best 11 right now, if you had to win a game to continue your season. Brad Gazan in goal. Bello, Robinson, Meza, Escobar. Lorenowitz at the 6.
Yep.
And this is assuming everybody but Joseph is healthy. Stop. I'm doing mine. Stop. You can do yours in a minute. You can put Brooks Lennon at the 10.
Out.
Don't throw names out. I know who the players are. I'm thinking. Lorenowitz is the 6. Heinemann and Hosech. Well, you're going to have Moreno. So I would go Heinemann and Moreno as your 2 central in front of Lorenowitz.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets hard. I would probably put Lennon on the right, Dom on the left, and Gallagher up top. That would be my starting group.
Okay.
Because I want Lennon and Dom and Escobar all on the field. And if that's the way I got to do it, that's the way I'll do it. If Dom and Lennon don't work on those sides, you can switch them. They can switch throughout the match. But I think that's where you're at the moment. So, I mean, you could bring Barco in centrally for Heinemann and sit Heinemann, and then you could bring Mulroney into it, but I don't think you get better that way. So that's the way I would go with what we think we'll have at the end of the season. If you're going into a playoff game, from what we know right now, that's the lineup I would go with.
Okay.
And Heinemann Hosetu is feels like it changes every other day. But Heinemann's been good the last 2 matches, so right now he'd get the nod.
Okay. Nathan Pugh with a serious question. He says, if Applebee's wanted to be a sponsor, would you love them?
No, Applebee's, you're not welcome. Sorry. We're not completely sellouts in terms of taking any sponsorship. That's why we have Fanatis as a partner, because we believe in the service. fntz.co/soccer down here. You got Copa Libertadores this week. You got La Liga back. You got Ligue 1. You got the Ecuadorian League. You got the Colombian League. You got TIC. You've got Guatemalan League action. You've got Turkish Super League. You got all kinds of stuff. You got Real Madrid TV. You've got the Brasileiro pack you can add on. You've got the Italian language pack you can add on. All the things, fntz.co/soccer down here. And we believe in them, and they believe in us, and that's why we're partners. I don't believe in Applebee's. Sorry, Applebee's. I don't believe in you. Your watered-down drinks and your bad broccoli pasta.
And Daniel agrees on our Waffle House facts.
I like Chili's better than Applebee's anyway. How about that? And neither one's all that great, but I think Chili's beats Applebee's 9 times out of 10.
Okay. I've just never really gone to Chili's more than Applebee's, just because of what availability. It has nothing to do with personal preference. It's availability at the time that you're trying to chase something.
You're missing out. It's better.
John Nason, not that he's had enough time to really settle. What is it that you're seeing in Dom that I'm missing? Just don't think he's shown much yet in the minimal time he's gotten. #overreaction Monday.
His whole career. Because, he's got one, and he's been very good. I think that's something that comes up sometimes here, and I don't necessarily get it because, when we're talking about rating a player, sometimes players don't fit, and that's accurate. You see good players who have come to this league in different teams, and they didn't play as well as we've seen them play in other places. Doesn't mean they're not talented, but it hasn't fit. Dom hasn't been 100% since he got here, so I think it's way too early to make decisions. But what I'm seeing is the fact that when you look at what he's produced, and this is per 90 minutes, and remember, Dom's only played, how many minutes has he played? 152. So it's very small returns on that. Very, very small. He has an assist in 152 minutes, so that's one thing in the right direction. You look at per 90, and again, he's only played 100. He hasn't even played 2 sets of 90s. But key passes, more per 90 than anybody else, 2.35. More than Pitti, more than Barco so far this year in terms of creating opportunities for others. That's where he's been important. Shot creating actions per 90, and I know it's not a lot of minutes, 3.55. He has created 6 shots for himself or others, 5 of them from live ball passes, and 1 shot that led to another shot attempt. He has created 2 goals. 2 goal-creating actions. That is the most in the team per 90 minutes, and both of those were from passes. Dribbling. Let's do per 90 here. He is winning 89% of his dribbles, and per 90 he would be winning dribbles 4.7 times. That's a huge number. Those are the things I'm seeing so far. But it's so far. It's 150 minutes. I'm going by what we saw from him at Tigres. He's got game-breaking speed. That makes him difficult to deal with on the dribble. That opens games up. That's why I think he's an important player going forward. And if you get to next year where you're healthy, Joseph up top, Barco or a new DP, Moreno, and either Heinemann or Josetu, and a new 6, Dom on the right side, that's a difficult team to deal with. With Lennon, with Escobar attacking from deep positions, with Bello attacking from deep positions, that's a really difficult team to deal with. Dom will be fully ready to go next season. And I think he'll be a force for this team. I think that was a really good get on a free.
No question about it. Okay. So then Daniel reposted his lineup. But what's going on the Twitch pitch? Anything?
All kinds of stuff. People are talking about handballs from the weekend. Could talk about a handball from last night that I thought could have been called. It kind of reminded me of what we saw with Everton and Crystal Palace, which according to the letter of the law is a handball. I don't really like it at all. Referees need to have the discretion to make a decision. It doesn't need to be black and white in these situations. And everybody wanted it to be black and white. Don't get it twisted. You can go back and look at people's comments and tweets. I think Gary Lineker was one that somebody went back and pulled an old tweet where he talked about wanting it to be defined. Well, now it's defined, and we don't like how it's defined. It's because it's a hard situation to call. And if you just make it black and white, you're going to get the situation that you had in the Tottenham game, which I think was awful. Steve Bruce said it was awful. And Steve Bruce would know awful. Did you see the way his team played? It was awful. I mean, it's, again, letter of the law. Yeah, his arm's up over his head. But it's a header. His arm's like kind of behind him the way his body is shaped. There's no intent. He had jumped. So, I mean, there's no intent there. You could argue intent far more in the Crystal Palace situation, to me, than in the Tottenham situation.
Yeah.
The Tottenham one does not feel like a handball to me. The other one is a judgment call. I think it was a harsh judgment, but it's a judgment call. You can talk me into it. The one that Manchester United had and Brighton had, I don't think there's any question about. I mean, the way that Maupay leaped, his arm's out in front of him leaping. Yeah. That's a handball.
Yes.
The one last night, I thought the arm was away from the body in the same manner that we saw with the Everton Crystal Palace situation, and I thought it could have been called. The question would be, did it come off the hip first? And we only saw one quick replay. So I don't know. And they had plenty of time to look at it. It was one of those where the play kept going, so they would have had time to look at it. A lot of people are yelling about VAR with the handballs, and the VAR has nothing to do with the handballs. Stop. VAR's not going away. You can give that up. That quest, done. Not happening. VAR's not leaving. How do you make VAR better is the question. That's a different conversation than the handballs. They've made the handball law worse now. That has to change. They've made it worse. It got worse initially when they said that if it comes off an attacking player, no intent matters. If it comes off an attacking player in the build-up to a goal, it's no goal. Now they've made it even worse from that, where they've tried to make it a black and white thing, and a handball's not, because I think intent has to be part of the determination, and that means referees have to make a decision. And, yeah, VAR will be part of making that decision, but VAR and the handball issue are two separate things to me. Completely two separate things. VAR's not going away. It does need to be faster. It does need to be better. It needs to be more consistent, just like referees need to be more decisive, need to be more consistent. They're human beings. Like, that's what it is. So VAR is no different. VAR is a tool that helps more calls be made correctly. No question. I do want that instead of calls not being made correctly. I'm never going to buy the argument that we don't want calls to be made correctly because we don't like replay. I don't think that makes the game better. We want the calls to be made. Ireland wanted that handball against Thierry Henry. That would have been a handball if you had VAR currently and before the handball laws were rewritten. That would have been a handball. Ireland would have went to the World Cup. England wants VAR because Diego Maradona punched the ball in the goal in a World Cup quarterfinal. He did. VAR would have seen that. No goal. Like, you should want that to be correct. There's just no way to argue it for me. But they got to fix this handball thing. They got to fix this. It's become worse than the offside question. It has. They got to fix it. Alex Pacine says there was another Carroll to Dyer handball that looked exactly the same, except on the opposite side of the box just 2 minutes earlier, not even reviewed. Consistency. Consistency is a thing. That's a thing for all referees, no question. But I don't like the way that handball felt. And we've talked about how it feels with offside, because you got into a situation where you had been told, I'd been told, everybody had been told that if it's level, tie goes to the runner. You know, if it's level, it's on. with the naked eye. When you added replay into it, you're not judging it by the naked eye anymore. And you're able to see it in more detail. So those things that maybe would have went for you before, at least you were told they didn't always. Go back and look at a game from 5 years ago and the arguments about offside. You'll see situations that are called incorrectly either way. It happens because you're dealing with humans. But now with replay, you're able to see it exactly. So people have a feeling about offside, like, oh, well, that's not the way it should be called. Well, then define it. Handballs now have been defined, and it's taken away the way it should feel to me, because I don't think those three things we talked about are the same, but they're being looked at the same. The handball from Brighton was a handball. It felt like a handball. It was a handball to me. The Everton Crystal Palace one is a 50-50 decision that I can understand, and you could argue and make a case that his arm's away from his body, it's out, the ball goes to it, it would have went to an attacking player behind him. That's a handball. Okay. I'm not horribly upset by that one. The Tottenham one does not feel like a handball.
Yeah.
And that's where you need the discretion from the referees. That's where they need to be able to say, that's not a handball. He jumped. His arms went up when he jumped. He made no intent to play the ball. No handball, let's play. That's where referees need to have that ability.
Yeah, the Dyer one for me, the Tottenham one for me, it didn't look like, and once again, this is where judgment's coming into play. It's like it looked like it hit his hip first and then bounced and hit his arm from the one angle that we saw.
Say that again?
With Dyer,
mm-hmm.
it looked like it did hit his hip first.
No, Dyer had nothing to do with his hip. Dyer was up in the air. Dyer's arm was up above his head.
Oh,
Which one are you talking about? The Everton Crystal Palace one?
Yeah, Everton Crystal Palace, yeah. Looked like it hit the hip first.
Well, if it hit his hip first, then I don't think it should be a handball, because the way it's written is that, like, if it comes off your head and comes down onto your arm, it's not a handball. And I would say if it comes off your hip and deflects into your arm, it shouldn't be a handball. But you could say the arm was out. I don't remember that one looking like it hit his hip as much. The Dyer one doesn't feel like a handball at all to me. It just doesn't. But they've got to figure this out. VAR, and I mean, I just click on my Reddit where I've subscribed to a lot of different things, so I kind of get news filtering through Reddit. And this one title on a subreddit is, "Who else thinks VAR and these stupid laws is low-key killing football?" It's not VAR. It's not VAR in this situation. It's the handball law that they have changed to reportedly make better. I think they've made it worse.
Yeah.
That's not a VAR thing to me. It's not. VAR is part of the decision-making process, but the decision is the issue in this. It's got to change.
Well, I'm enjoying. I'm not going to say enjoying, but I'm liking the fact that you're seeing the Premier League center refs actually going over to the monitor this season, instead of they not doing it at all or doing it very rarely. The fact that with regularity you're seeing them going over to the monitor this year.
No, they didn't do it at all. They were told not to. Now they are told to follow the actual rules that IFAB has put in place, which is kind of how this all should work. So there's consistency from league to league. Now, every league's going to have a different character, and that's understandable. But when you're just saying, no, don't go look at the monitor, that's dumb. That was just dumb. It was a stupid thing. You had bad decisions happen because of that. Now they're using it, thankfully, and they're at least doing that part right. The Premier League side with the handball, like, it's the way the handball law has been changed and written. That has to change. That's not even a Premier League thing. That's just the way it's been written, and it's bad.
So then how would you write it?
I would write it in a way that referees can make a decision on their own. I mean, you have to define, what can be called a handball. And I think they're on the right path with the arm being away from the body, being in an unnatural position, outside the silhouette. Like, all that's fine. I don't have a problem with any of that. But you still have to be able to judge it, because the Dyer one and the Palace one, the arm's away from the body in both. But they're very different. When you jump, your arms go up. Mm-hmm. That's just a fact. And there was no intent there. You could say there was intent. You might be wrong, But you could say there is intent on the Crystal Palace one. I don't think anybody can argue there is an intent to touch the ball with the hand from Dyer. I don't think you win that argument. I think you might be able to win the argument that in the Palace one, there was intent because of the arm being out, because you're trying to make yourself bigger. Referees need to be able to interpret that. You can't take the interpretation away from the referees, because then you get into these situations where anytime the arm is out, it can be a handball. And then you get to the thing that they've reportedly tried to get away from, with defenders feeling like they have to put their arms behind their back, or you can't jump, you can't even put your arms like around your chest, you can't do this, you can't do any of those things because they're going to find a way to call the handball. Like, that's not what you want. So referees have to be able to see it and interpret it, and VAR will help with that. But referees have to be able to make the decision on it. To me, that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, because, I mean, for me, with intent, if you're jumping, it's a natural inclination for your arms to go up to help you to gain elevation. You're not going to just jump with your arms static to your side and to try to jump up and try to defend or go after a ball in that way. It's a natural inclination for you to elevate yourself in that manner.
It's just how the body works. It's just physics. So referees have to be able to see that and understand that it's different from somebody standing with their arms out further away from their body. Burns says, what's so weird is refs saying you don't need to put your hands behind your back, but in fact you do, which is true. But that's the change this year, though, because last year you just had the thing with the attackers in the situation. Now it's everybody. You're not judging intent anymore. That's the way it's been discussed. Intent doesn't matter anymore. It is, if the arms are out, this happens, which goes against the whole idea of last year saying that, no, if your arm's in a natural position, if it's down by your sides, then it's good. And that's where interpretation comes in the Everton Crystal Palace one as well. Were his arms by his sides? They were. But were they away from the body? I think they were. I think they were away enough to where that could be a handball. The Tottenham one, the arm's up and away from the body, but he jumped. And I think the silhouette changes when you jump.
Yeah.
He didn't lead with it like Maupay did, which is a handball.
Yes.
It hit like behind him, so there's nothing he could do to avoid the handball. That's why that one, to me, needs interpretation from a referee. And that's the biggest change I would make, is that referees make that decision. And then we're back to where we were in that, yes, sometimes referees are going to get a call incorrect there. You have VAR to give another opinion and to potentially be a counterpoint, which should help give you more information to make the call. But it's going to be a judgment call. I don't think you can strictly define handball and make it black and white. Offside, different conversation. It is black and white. I think it's a black and white situation. The interpretation now is you want to make it, at least according to some, where it is a gray area, which I don't think can work in that scenario. You already have a little bit of interpretation based off being an active part of the play. That's fine with me. That's fine. I think that part of the rule is fine. The problem that people have with offside is that now you can see it in detail where you couldn't before. And that's changed the way people see offside. Handball, people wanted clear definition. I think they've got it now, and they've taken the opinion out of it. And in my opinion, that's made it worse. So I think that needs to go back to the way it was. With the increased definition about arm being away from the body, away from the natural silhouette, making yourself bigger, those kinds of things. And the one thing they did change that I like is when you slide and your arm is on the ground, it is part of your body. It's part of your silhouette. That's not a handball. That part they got right. That's about the only part they got right in this.
Yeah, because, I mean, for me, if you're creating gray areas in offside, then I've always thought offside should be yes or no, A or B. There should be no gray area. You either are or you're not. And to create a gray area all over again for something like offside, you're going to, I think you would end up creating more issues all over again if you created that gray area, whatever it was.
With offside or with handballs?
With offside.
Okay. Pacine and 3TH IB? Yes, IB. Welcome. I think that might be your first time. 3. Kind of saying the same thing a little bit. Pacine says, if the rule is changed to prevent the bad Dyer call, doesn't that give advantage? It doesn't, because I don't think you're changing the rule to prevent the bad call. You're changing the rule to give the referee an option in that call, because right now the referee doesn't have the option. 3 says there's just too many possible natural arm positions to define it based on such. And I agree. That's where I think it needs to be defined as, if you do these things, if your arm's above your shoulders, okay, if your arm's away from your body, okay, you could be called for a handball if the referee judges that there was intent. That's the part that I think has to be in there. But you do need to define a little bit of what can lead to it. But the referee has to judge intent. That's roughly where I would be with it.
Okay.
Oh, LB Fubear. Okay, welcome. Easier handle and failed miserably. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't LB or IB. I think it's LB, so it's kind of small on my laptop in front of me. Sorry about that. LB3 TH. Yes, welcome back.
Yes. Good to see you again. Welcome back. Apparently, the new Providence City kit release is drawing some reaction this morning on the Twitter timeline, by the way.
Okay.
It looks like a birthday cake colored kit.
It's a
or
birthday
at least
cake?
a jersey.
Okay.
And it is drawing raves. It's either that or like a donut. I can't, it's like, some folks are saying donuts and some folks are saying birthday cake. So what would you call it?
I don't know. Let me look, and I will give a ruling. I will give you my interpretation of the situation.
It looks like birthday cake ice cream if it was like on strawberry ice cream.
Okay. So it's pink, and it's got sprinkles. Have we seen the whole shirt yet? Or are we just seeing the folded up part that they've got on their website or on their Twitter?
Just went to their Twitter, and it looks like that is the only part that has been released.
Okay, I think it's a donut with sprinkles on it with the pink frosting, like somebody's posted the GIF of. That's my guess. Okay, let's get into more important things. Sorry, Providence City. Lots of different things on the Twitch pitch about this conversation. We'll continue with it for just a little bit. Mezzano, VAR needs live feeds of goalpost cams. Body cams worn by center refs and ARs would have the ability to roll back all angles to get the call right. I do agree the goalpost cams, because I think that's an easy thing to do.
Yes.
Across the board. This is not just an MLS conversation.
Mm-hmm.
MLS should have it because they don't have goal line technology. Other leagues should have it because you're going to add more cameras, and it's an easy thing to add. I think it's a simple fix. So that should be the case everywhere, and VAR should have that. I don't know if the body cams help. It would only help VAR just in the case of knowing what the referee saw, but I don't think you want to add more time to VAR making a decision. VAR should be judging on what they see and telling the center ref what they see, and if they think that the call is obviously incorrect or that the referee didn't have that information, I don't think they need to check to see if the referee could have had that information. That would add more time for me. But they need to have every angle they could possibly have, and goalpost cams could help in some situations. So it's an easy fix. Do it.
Yes.
Burn says, with offside, strikers will have to adjust their runs. Basically, you have to start the run a foot behind the defender, or your head or shoulder or foot, maybe ahead. I agree. And instead of that adjustment, I think we're getting a lot of complaining about it, but it's a step. It's not going to dramatically change it. It's just before where you're relying on the AR's eyesight, which could be great, could get obstructed, could be not so great. They could miss it. They could blink. I mean, there's so many different elements that come into it, and you're getting a 50-50 decision there, and if they get it right or not, you now have video to show if it's right or not. That's the difference. It's not going to be wrong with the video and with the Hawkeye and all that stuff. I don't have a problem with that. I don't even know why people have argued it. The runs need to be different. because the runs should be different when you're playing in a match, and the AR is calling it really tight, and everything that's close, you feel like they're calling offside. So you adjust. You just adjust from the jump now because there's no gray area anymore. You know that it's going to be called correctly. So that's it. Pacine says, right, that's what I'm saying about the handball thing. If you want to clarify the rule to make it more concrete, then either you will punish defenders too harshly or give them an unfair advantage. The rule needs to include intent. The intent has to be there for me. You can't have a proper handball rule without intent being part of it. You just can't. It's impossible. Badgermon votes that Madison is better than Providence in soccer kits and in life, but in soccer kits first. Can I have an unpopular take?
Proceed.
I think both of them try too hard a little bit. And I know far more about their kits than their soccer teams. And we should know more about the soccer teams. The kits are cool, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think some of them have tried too hard with both, and it's not a kit that I think really works. I think sometimes it's a cool shirt, but not a kit for both teams. And I just think it's too gimmicky. But I'm also somebody who likes the more traditional style, like kind of old school. I like throwbacks more than I like this. That's my personal style. So it's not for me. This is not designed for me, but I'd like to be talking more about their soccer teams than their kits. And that's, I think, the more important thing that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Pacine and Byrne going back about offside. Pacine says, and then the next problem, you can freeze frame a head or shoulder, but wait until you have a fuzzy foot image and try to pick out the pixel that matters. It's just changing where you're able to see it. I mean, you're not seeing pixels with the naked eye, and AR's got calls wrong. AR's missed things. I mean, we saw it in the Women's World Cup when we first started to get into this, where ARs put their flag up afterwards saying that they thought it was offside, and then you see the replay, and it's not offside. That would have been called back. It wasn't now because you have VAR. You also see calls where the AR did not put their flag up, but it was offside because they would have gotten it wrong. You're giving them more information. You're getting the call right. Is there some degree where it goes beyond, okay, the eyesight could have gotten it wrong, to now where the technology could get it wrong? Yeah, those are really, really close calls. And in those situations, if it's not clear with the technology you have, and different leagues have different technology, then it should be onside to me. Period. If it's clear, and even if it's pixels, or even if it's the Hawkeye, the lines, whatever, if it's clear, then it's off. If it's not clear, then it should be on. That's the way I would do it anyway.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan to me.
Ricky hating on me says lower division teams getting buzzed this way is a good thing. It is. It absolutely is. And I'm not hating on that. But you have to follow up the buzz with the soccer because that's the point. And that's the part that I want to see both get to.
Yeah.
Because if it's just buzz, it doesn't last. And I've been at this on the lower division stuff for a long time. I started a team, helped start a team, helped with a league committee, was on the executive committee of NPSL. Sustainability is the number one issue. And these things are great to get that attention initially, but you got to build off of it. And I think Forward Madison has more resources to build off of it. So they're going to have more opportunities to do it. But both are still known for the buzz as opposed to the product.
Yeah.
And that's the next step for me. You've got to use the buzz to get people to stay for the product. The sustainability is the key. And it's always my question about teams in lower divisions, because you can come in, you can sell a bunch of kits, you can do all that, but are you sustainable as a business at a lower division? And I don't think you can be without the soccer being what's talked about. I just don't think that can happen. So I'm not hating on them at all. It's just I want to talk about their soccer more. I want to get to that point. And maybe that's happening in their markets, and we're not in their market. So that's also a very fair way to put it. I hope that's where they're focused. Use this to get buzz, but use the buzz correctly. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. because and that's the sustainability for me. That was the word that I was hunting for as you were talking about it. Because yes, all of this stuff is fantastic and it gives people the opportunity to buy these kits and wear these kits, but you don't want to have that as a memory of something that is no longer around, that has created an empty space where you'd like for the sport to succeed in lower divisions. And so for me, that's, I can give you an example right here. I mean, there's a reason. I mean, I collect these things.
Yeah, that's a different example, though, John. Like that was a poor business all the way around. They didn't create a buzz. Like they were poorly run from day one.
They were.
That's different. I'm talking about these teams that are, if you're creating something that people want to buy, you're doing something right.
Right.
Period.
No doubt.
Now, you do want it to convert to tickets being bought, not just kits being bought. Absolutely. Because that's the lifeblood of it. But that's the point to me, is you've got to use the buzz. Getting the buzz is great. And Lansing Ignite never really got the buzz, and they weren't run well to begin with.
Nope.
Forward Madison, Providence City, a bunch of other, lower division teams, very small teams in regional leagues, NPSL, UPSL, NISA, Oakland Roots, for example. Oakland Roots have been run really well. They've created a buzz with product and with branding, and they've been parlaying it, moving up. Now they'll be in USL Championship. That's good. They're sustainable. They're not going anywhere. We hope. I mean, they're moving up. They're spending more money, so we think they're in a good spot. The kit game, as Badger says, the kit game has to be upped for these teams because of the number of people and the stands are way down. That part's accurate right now. That's a really good point.
Yes.
If you can sell the kits in place of selling the tickets, cool. Got to flip it, though, when that changes next year, and that's what I'm hoping for. So that's all. I'm not trying to badmouth them for having cool kits. It's just that's all I know of these teams right now. I mean, Forward Madison's not having a good year, but they come up with a new kit all the time, and that's fine. I mean, it's getting something, but ultimately, we've got to know these soccer clubs as soccer clubs, because that's how it is sustainable. That's how it continues.
Yeah, I want it to be part of the larger picture for the sustainability long-term of this club.
Yeah. Burned about offside. He said, ARs in Atlanta youth leagues get offside wrong a lot. It's a tough call. Absolutely. Only thing worse are parents who don't understand it. Majority of the parents who yell at the refs about it. Drives me insane. It's a tough call. And it's something that I try really hard on the broadcast to make this point whenever it happens. When we are in the building, if it's a game at Mercedes-Benz right now, or in the past it's a game on the road where we're there. The LAFC one, for example, I think that's a prime example, a good way to explain this. We were in a pretty good spot to judge the two very close calls that LAFC did not have called offside that they scored on. I try to be clear in saying, I think that might have been off, but not make it definitive, because I don't have the angle. I might be, in that case, I'm on the concourse, and the AR is on the field, so he's going to have a better angle than me. But I might be at midfield, and that might happen 30 yards down the field. I don't have that angle. I can't say that it's offside or onside. So for parents who are on the other side of the field, or 10 yards behind, or this or that, to start yelling that the AR got it wrong, you can't see that. It's impossible, because you're not there, because you need to see the line. Now, when you see the replay, and this is where I try to make it clear that I'm judging it from the replay. I've said before, when it's been in line with us, hey, I think that might be off, or hey, I think that's on. Now we're getting a look at the replay, and I can have a better judgment. But no, you can't say the AR is wrong when you're on the other side of the field and nowhere near it. You don't have that. You can't see that. You can't shapeshift and be in the AR's head to see what they're seeing. You can't do that.
No, I'm right there with you. Completely and totally agree.
Badger says, Forward Madison sold out Breeze Stevens Field in the non-COVID world. Absolutely. Yes. And I think they're fine, except on the field. They got to be better.
Yes.
Where are they in USL League One right now?
Mid-table.
Yep. You're going to ultimately be defined by the on the field. and that needs to be the story. So we'll see. I'm not hating. I'm just saying the soccer is the number one thing here. I'm also old school, and I like throwbacks and old school stuff. So these kits are not being made for me anyway. So there you go. Get off my lawn and all that stuff.
You young whippersnappers.
No, that's you saying that. I would never say whippersnapper.
If it wasn't for you meddling kids.
I might say that as a joke, but I would never say whippersnapper.
Wag a finger. Wag an index finger out publicly.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's finger wagging in various terms, but something like whippersnapper is something you would never use.
No, I would never say whippersnapper. Okay, last thing before we go. We'll be back for soccer over there, 7 o'clock. We got tons of stuff to talk about. CONMEBOL has said that the Flamengo Independiente del Valle match in Brazil will go ahead on Wednesday. Flamengo did not play over the weekend. They had all the positive test issues in Ecuador last week. They played, they won, they did not play on the weekend. I don't know where they stand currently. We'll have that update tonight, but that match is going forward. We will talk about Defensa y Justicia and their chance to move into the knockout rounds on Thursday. And we are discovering a lot of new listeners to the Soccer Down Here universe from Varela in Buenos Aires, who found our English language update, the one that I'm doing. I'm going to try to do it on a weekly basis, the Spirit of the Hawk. That made its way through the Defensa fan base, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
So it's like they're blown away that they have an English language podcast now. Those go out as regularly as people can do them. So John's doing one on Swansea. Did you use the music that I picked out for your Swansea one?
Did you send me music?
No, you just did one on your own, and you didn't send me the file, so I wasn't able to add the music to it. Remind me, I'll send you the intro that I created for you.
Well, then I'll use the intro from now on.
Yeah, if you're going to post it yourself, then, if you're going to be a big boy and post it yourself, then there you go.
30 Friday morning.
Jarrett has his on Celtic. Nick, reportedly, this is the rumor anyway, will have one on Milan. He's very excited about Milan, so I think it'll be a very excited show when he has one. But that's coming. So
Diavolo in the details?
Diavolo in the details, yes. So those are little 5 to 10 minute updates on these individual teams. That's been a lot of fun to do. There was a 1v1 late last week on Urban Tree Cidery, the official cider sponsor of Atlanta United 2. Next year, we'll be doing some away match viewing parties over at the Cidery, and I have been told multiple times that I need to try their habanero cider.
Oh, wow.
Which sounds really, really interesting, and I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, I think Patty would dig that.
I will try it because I've been told I should try it, and I like to try new things, so I will try it. But I'm a little intrigued by it. They've got some other stuff coming out as well. That 1v1's up on the network. We're trying to add to those extra little bits of content coming up. Ricky loves Urban Tree. Urban Tree's amazing. So I'm going to get some of the Atlanta United 2, the fan cider, and I'm going to get some of the habanero cider, which I think is about to be canned. So I'll make a run and grab some of that. You can also have cider delivered. I did not know that until we did the 1v1 because cideries are under the winery side of things.
Oh.
Wine can be delivered. Beer cannot be delivered.
Right, so
cider can be delivered through Roadie.
Tree. Habanero cider.
Yep.
Delivery.
So
this is for the boss. This is not for me.
Well, I know that, but still. Yes. So Urban Tree, awesome. It was great to catch up with Jackie last week. We'll be doing viewing parties there for the twos on the road next year. And we'll have soccer over there tonight, 7 o'clock. Lots to talk about. And today, let me make sure I got this. So American Outlaws Atlanta is doing a watch-along for the Gold Cup draw. You might need Twitch on multiple platforms tonight. Yep. Twitch.tv/AOATL for the Gold Cup draw this evening. We'll be talking about it on ours as well. But they will also be raffling off an autographed Tobin Heath U.S. Women's National Team jersey. Proceeds go to their fundraiser for Soccer in the Streets. They are $10 a ticket. You can purchase them at paypal.me/AOATL. And I just retweeted their tweet from Atlanta Outlaws. Cool fundraiser for soccer in the streets. So check that out. All the things. Uncle No Pockets, you can have other things delivered here in Portland. That is not cool. I would like to have beer delivered. I cannot have beer delivered yet. They have, I think, passed or they're starting to pass the things that will allow it. It just hasn't gone all the way through yet, or at least I don't think people have been licensed to do it. I can't remember where it stands. I think the first part of it passed. I just don't know if it's implemented yet is where we stand. So we're catching up slowly. Yes, Jason Nix, Unk is rubbing it in. Absolutely. It's not fair. So I would have to go buy my beer, but I can have my cider delivered. So it's almost cider weather, so I'm down. All right, soccer over there tonight. We'll be back at 7. Y'all have a good one. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.